Somewhere tonight, in a hospital, a doctor will look at a clock and decide that a person is dead. Not discover it, decide it. Because there is no moment, there is no line inside the body that says, here, before this, alive, after this, gone. We drew that line ourselves, and we drew it in a very strange place. Here's the part that should bother you. Sometimes, after everyone in the room has agreed that a person has died, the heart starts again, on its own. Nobody touches it. It happens often enough that hospitals now wait. They stand there, watching a stopped heart, before anyone is allowed to say the word. That waiting time is not biology. It is a stopwatch with a safety margin on the end, because we were not sure. So what is actually happening in there? In the minute after a heart stops, while everyone in the room assumes you have gone, almost nothing you would expect. Start with the thing everyone believes, that the brain is the last light to go out. It is not. It is the first. In 2025, a team in Vancouver watched blood flow inside the brains of people dying in intensive care, in real time, second by second. The brain lost its blood supply while the heart was still beating. Not by a moment. Blood flow to the brain stopped, and the pulse carried on for another minute and a half after that. The heart was weak by then, pressure low, but it was still pumping, and the rest of the body was still getting deliveries. The brain had already been cut off. It is not the last light to go out. It is the first tenant evicted from the building that still has power. I should be careful here, because the researchers were. These were people dying slowly in hospital, not people collapsing in the street, and the team says so plainly. But another Canadian group looked separately and found exactly the same thing. So the order we all assume is the wrong way round, which makes you wonder what the first seconds are actually like. Faster than you think. Your brain does not store oxygen. It lives hand to mouth, taking what the blood brings, using it, needing more. When the deliveries stop, there is nothing in reserve. Researchers measured it and got just under 7 seconds from the blood stopping to the person going under. I should say where that number came from. The subjects were prison inmates and psychiatric patients, and their brain blood flow was cut off over and over, sometimes for 100 seconds at a time. No study like that would be allowed now, and those men could not meaningfully agree to it. It is still the cleanest measurement we have, which is an uncomfortable thing to be true. And there is no warning, no sense of it beginning. People who have been brought back all describe the same thing, which is nothing at all. Though if somebody is watching, what they see is stranger. Some people gasp as they go down. Slow, ragged breaths, long after the heart has stopped. It looks like the worst thing you have ever seen, and every instinct says it means the end. It means the opposite. People who gasp during a cardiac arrest survive more often than people who lie still. The thing that looks most like dying is a sign of life, and that raises an uncomfortable question about everything we do next. You know the images, the compressions, the shock, the needle going in. You have watched them 100 times on television, and you believe they work. Chest compressions do not restart anything. In animals, they push less than 1/10 of the brain's normal blood supply. In people, even done perfectly, a fraction of a working heart. It is not a restart. It is somebody keeping a fire alight by hand. If your heart stops in the street tomorrow, that is what is being done for you. Not a rescue, a delay. Then there is the adrenaline, the needle, the most famous object in emergency medicine. Some years ago, researchers finally tested it properly. Thousands of people, half given adrenaline, half given nothing, and nobody in the room knowing which. It worked. More people survived, and then they looked at what state those extra survivors were in. Among the people who lived, severe brain damage was far more common in the group who got the drug, almost double. Sit with that, because it is genuinely dark. The needle restarts hearts. It does not appear to save minds. It carries people back across the line, and a great many of them arrive with the lights already out. And this is where it stops being a curiosity and starts being a pattern. For about 20 years, hospitals chilled people after cardiac arrest, cooled them deliberately to protect the brain. It was standard care everywhere, Taught, written into the guidelines, built on 2 small studies. Then somebody ran the big one. Nearly 2,000 patients, half cooled, half kept normal. There was no difference, none. 2 decades of a worldwide standard, and the effect was simply not there. If it had happened to you at any point in those 20 years, you would have been cooled as well, and it would have changed nothing. So, we are not sure our best drug helps. We know our best procedure barely moves blood, and a global standard of care turned out to do nothing at all. Which brings us back to the doctor and the clock and the waiting, because now you can see where that came from. In 2021, researchers recorded every heartbeat of 631 dying patients across 20 intensive care units. Then they went back through the traces. In about 1 in 7, the heart started again by itself, after it had stopped. The longest gap was 4 minutes and 20 seconds. None of those people survived. Nobody woke up. But it happened often enough that somebody had to choose a number, and the number they chose was 5 minutes. That is the line. Not a discovery about the human body, a count taken from observation with a margin added because the counting frightened them. 5 minutes is how long you would lie there, with everyone waiting, before anyone was allowed to say it out loud. If you want more of the machine you're living inside taken apart like this, subscribe. This is the hidden science of being human. Because there is one thing left that I could not answer, and I looked hard. If the brain is starved within seconds, how are people coming back with detailed memories of the room, of conversations, of what the ceiling looked like? Hold on to that one. It does not resolve the way you think it will. The question underneath all of it. If we cannot agree when a person is dead, how long does the body actually last? Far longer than anyone assumed. And this is the strangest thing I found. In 2019, researchers took pig brains from an abattoir, brains that had been dead for 4 hours, sitting in a bin. They pushed a fluid through the blood vessels. The circulation came back. The cells started eating oxygen again. Individual brain cells fired. Synapses worked. The immune cells woke up and started doing their job. 4 hours after death, in tissue everybody had written off. Your brain cells are not sitting on a 4-minute fuse. They are far more patient than anybody told you. Picture a city after a blackout. Somebody restores the grid, and the lights come on street by street. Kettles boil. Fridges start humming. But there is no traffic, no voices, nobody at any of the windows, just a working grid in an empty city. Because the one thing that never came back was the organized electrical activity you would need for a mind to be present. The team was watching for it the whole time, ready to stop if it appeared. It never appeared. So both of the things you assume are wrong at once. Brain cells do not die in minutes, and waking the cells does not wake anybody up, which leads the part everyone actually wants to know about, what it feels like. You have heard the accounts, the light, the tunnel, floating up near the ceiling, looking down at your own body, and the people working on it. Researchers took that claim seriously enough to test it. They hid pictures on high shelves in resuscitation rooms, facing the ceiling, where nobody standing on the floor could possibly see them. If you were really up there looking down, you would see it without trying. It would be the easiest thing in the room to notice. They ran this for years, across dozens of hospitals. Nobody has ever named one. Not once. And then there is the thing that unsettles me most. In 2002, surgeons in Geneva were mapping a woman's brain with electrodes before an operation. They touched one spot, and she said she was leaving her body. She described watching herself lying on the bed, from above. They switched the current off, and she came back. On again, and she left again. No heart attack, no dying. A small electrical current in one specific place, producing on demand the exact experience people offer as proof that the mind can leave the body. That is one patient, but it is a strange thing to be able to do with a switch. Whatever you might one day feel yourself leaving your body, it can be produced in you, on a table, by a wire. And when researchers asked 1,000 ordinary people whether they had ever had a near-death experience, a quarter said yes. Measured properly against the scale researchers use, most did not qualify. Most people who believe this happened to them are describing something else, something real to them, just not the thing they think it was. So where does that leave your last minute? Not as an ending. Not exactly. For most of it, you are still there, intact, warm, every cell holding its shape, waiting for a delivery that has already stopped. Your temperature has barely moved. The only visible change in the whole minute is your skin beginning to pale. It is not a shutdown. It is a lit building with nobody answering the door. Which brings us back to the thing I could not answer. How anyone comes back with memories from a brain that went dark in seconds. Here is the honest answer. Nobody has ever measured when the experience happens. Every account we have was reported afterwards by somebody who came back. Serious scientists are still arguing in print about whether it happens on the way down or on the way back. So if it ever happens to you, nobody alive can tell you when in that minute you were, which means the most examined minute in all of medicine still has something inside it that we haven't found. Somewhere tonight, a doctor will look at a clock and decide, and the honest truth is that nobody in that room can say exactly what they are deciding about. Not the doctor, not the machines, not anyone who has ever come back to tell us.